Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Welcome back to the Corner of Truth and Courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. I want to draw our attention to Texas, especially to this effort by the Muslims around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you've not yet heard, Muslims in East Plano are planning to build a city, a Muslim city on 400 plus acres, just about 40 miles north of Dallas, about 20 miles away from where this, the East Plano, the mosque that they built there are huge, amazing facilities that they've been building. There's about 30,000 Muslims that live in the metro area of Dallas. And so we're going to put some attention to what's going on there, what the residents of Texas should do and should not do. I'm going to lay out some things there that might save you a lot of grief. I've been fighting these issues for almost 2 decades, and I'm going to share with you some mistakes that people in Michigan have made and some things that other states have done that will help. And Texas, so far, is not following these things. And they're very vulnerable to what's about to happen. Now, a little bit of background on me in case you don't know. I was a missionary over in England. I remember hearing for a decade, I was in a large Muslim community over there. And if you're not familiar with what's going on in England, we have a lot of Muslim immigrants that have moved in to the country and have altered the country very significantly. Many of the Muslims were saying, Sharia law is coming. You're going to live under Sharia, saying that to us non-Muslims. And I thought I was pretty up on Islam back then and the issues, and apparently I wasn't. I knew enough about Sharia to think, no way possible would we ever, here in England, allow Sharia law. Now, maybe if there's a war and they win and we're all dead, then yeah. But no way is that going to happen. I was wrong. September 14, 2008, the Telegraph newspaper in London announced that 7 Sharia law courts were opening with the government's backing. Now, there's a long story behind all that, and I don't have the time to get into it in today's broadcast. But we're going to cover some information over the next couple of days because I just can't cover it all that you need to know for in Texas, what you need to do. Know this, first of all, it wasn't the terrorists that brought Sharia law to England. And by the way, those 7 cities, one of those cities was my town, and it was the headquarters for all the Sharia courts. 5 miles from my church is the headquarters of the Sharia law courts in Britain. There's over 100 of these councils operating. Let me explain quickly what it means and doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that all of England lives by Sharia law, but it does mean that England said to the immigrants that were Muslims, you don't have to live by our laws. We're going to capitulate to you, and we're going to let you have your own foreign laws in our land, and we will enforce what you pass. It's only limited to civil law. But we're only doing it because the truth is we're afraid of you and we don't want the riots. We don't, we just want you to be happy. Please don't give us grief. And that's why they did it. And they wore them down. They wore down the Brits, and the Brits capitulated like they normally do and appeased and gave them their Sharia law courts. Has it helped the country? Absolutely not. Creates great confusion and great problems because you have 2 standards of laws. There's no country that's going to survive that, and eventually it will bring down it will be the death to Britain unless they fight it and fix it. But if they do, the Muslims aren't going to give it up easily. There'll be bloodshed, I guarantee you, and we're seeing that already in the country. Long story. Okay, now let's return to America. What do we need to do about this? As I've been speaking and talking about this on my radio program now for almost 15 years, we've been on the radio now. A lot of attention was in Dearborn back in those days, we started seeing David Wood and Abel Qureshi they were arrested on the streets there in Dearborn, Michigan, for witnessing, for handing out tracts, literally handing out tracts to Muslims in the Arab festival. They were arrested. Now, eventually, they sued, and their organization, Acts 17, was paid over $100,000 as a settlement for the false arrest that was done on American streets when they tried to apply Sharia law there. But there was a big outroar as a result of that. I used to go to those meetings and those rallies there in Dearborn while they were having them, and so I know firsthand what was going on. I was there, and so the people of Michigan started pushing back, and mosques were being built in the area, and there's a beautiful, huge mosque built there, right there in Dearborn Heights. They're on the Ford Boulevard, and more mosques were being built as Muslim immigrants were moving in. And so some cities pushed back. One city in particular was Sterling Heights, and the city refused to give them planning permission. Well, the Muslims sued, and they won big. How do they win? Well, the problem is you cannot stop Muslims from building a mosque. That is a violation of the First Amendment. The First Amendment does permit in every court, now you may not like it, and we may not like it, but the First Amendment does protect Muslims or Sikhs or Hindus or Buddhists or Christians or Jews to build their houses of worship. You cannot deny people that right. It's a right. It's protected by the First Amendment. And they were sued, and not only were they sued, but they had to pay out. Now, the city paid out a maximum of $350,000 because that was their down payment. The insurance kicked in. What I read years ago was $3.5 million was awarded to them, and they built a beautiful mosque with that money. And so if you want to help Muslims build these mosques, go ahead and try to block them, because they're going to beat you in the courts, and they know they can't because the law is on their side. And so you cannot block them. You just have to accept that. Now, with this city, Epic City, there may be some angles that might prevent them from doing it. And we'll get into that here in a moment. And by the way, if you're listening to our broadcast, we are in Dallas, Fort Worth. Our broadcast is there. And so we're hoping that listeners that are listening to us today will listen carefully to this broadcast. You can always re-listen to our material on our website, fortressoffaith.com, fortressoffaith.com. We're also on YouTube, on our channel there, and we're also on Spotify. And so share this broadcast with your friends and encourage them to listen over the next couple of days, because I'm going to lay out for you a recipe of do's and don'ts, okay? So one of the first don'ts is don't try to illegally block them because you don't like it. As a city council, treat them just as fairly as you would a Christian church wanting to build a church building. If not, you're going to end up paying out, and I don't think many people in your city are going to like that, okay? Now, here's another mistake, and already Governor Abbott has made it, and I don't think he realizes it. He came out and said, Sharia law is not allowed in our state. They're not going to be allowed to have this city and practice Sharia law. That's not allowed in my state. Learn the lesson of Oklahoma. Oklahoma got, and by the way, there's another example. I'm backtracking, forgive me. In Troy, Michigan, they made the same mistake and they paid out big. So there's 2 cities that paid settlements there, and the Muslims cleaned out these cities to build their mosque because these cities made a mistake. Okay, Oklahoma. Oklahoma passed a state law. It was State Question 755. It was called Save Our State Amendment back in 2010. And 70% of the voters voted and passed overwhelmingly and was signed into law, banning Sharia law in the state of Oklahoma. And everyone cheered and thought, great, we're not going to allow this foreign religion, this religion of Islam that teaches hatred and genocide of the Jews and the sword, the jihad, and all that kind of stuff. It's never going to come to our state. And they thought that they patted themselves on the back thinking we did a great job. Well, they didn't. Because the Muslims then sued the state in federal court for a violation of the First Amendment rights. And they argued, saying that we Muslims cannot practice Sharia law is saying we cannot practice our religion. And that is a violation of our First Amendment rights. And they sued the government, the state government of Oklahoma, and won, because it was passed in federal court. Yes, this is a violation of their religious rights. And so the state of Oklahoma had to overturn that law, because it stated that Sharia law would be banned from our state. So that now raises the question, what can a state do? I mean, if we don't want Islam in our state, if we don't want them having Sharia law practiced in our state like they're doing over in England, how do we stop this? What do we do? Well, the good news is there is a way, and we can say thank you to the state of Tennessee. Tennessee was the first state to pass a bill that is known as the No Foreign Laws Bill. And I don't have the time in today's broadcast to break all that down for you, so we're going to pick up on this in tomorrow's broadcast of some of the things that we should do. So a couple things, again, just to kind of recap. Don't do, number one, don't try to pass a bill, a law to ban Sharia law. You're going to lose in federal court. Number two, don't, in the city council, don't try to stop them from building their mosque on the city level. Treat them just like you would any other religious institution. If not, if they find that you're discriminating against them, you're going to be paying for their beautiful mosque to be built, because they're going to sue you and win in court. So those are the 2 don'ts. Tomorrow we'll get into some of the do's of what you should do. So join us tomorrow at the corner of Truth and Courage. God bless you.